Okay, thank you. So we are live right now doing a book launch for a couple of our authors. So I want to welcome Loanne Mayer. Thank you for being here today. Appreciate
You are
it so
so
much.
welcome, my dear.
I am so excited to talk to you about this because and by the way, people are sending me text messages, people are sending me private message, so I'm not going to see all that stuff, you guys. So if you can help me watch for that, team, I appreciate it, just because I won't be able to see all the messages when we're live. Okay, perfect. So we are recording and we are live on Facebook and we have Loanne here with us. So what we're doing today is launching two of our authors live. So I want you to see what happens behind the scenes when somebody puts all these pieces together that we're going to be talking about on this summit for the next 3 days. Now, first of all, Loanne, welcome to our little show here. And I want to say thank you again for being here. And if you can, tell us a little bit about you and maybe share a defining moment in your own life.
Well, one of my defining moments that is most impressive to me in my later years is the fact that our daughter, Cindy, died in 2005. And while I'd never thought of writing a book about such an experience, because of the things that happened to us, Cindy and my mom, I decided to write a book. And to my great surprise, that book, Celestial Conversations, Healing Relationships After Death, is still being sold after 11 years. And it defined my new career as a person who is a grief expert.
And here's that book right here. I actually have that book. In fact, when we first met, I got your book and I actually got to meet you in person, and we went to a retreat in Carmel Valley in Central California. And it was one of the most memorable retreats I've ever been to, you guys, because I lost my son, Carson. And so Loanne and I bonded over the loss of our children. And, I often say that, that we're both with God. They're on that side, we're on this side, you know what I mean? And it's amazing what you can do when you learn how to transform that grief and turn that pain into purpose. And it's exactly what Loanne has done. This was her first book that she wrote many, many years ago. And this was a book you had with the publisher, correct?
I did.
Okay, perfect. And then when we go through the rest of that journey, when we started talking, what else happened? We did this book.
Well, it evolved that I went back to Glastonbury, England, which is where I was when I was notified of Cindy's death. I was planning to do a grief retreat with the International Grief Council. And what happened is that I was sitting in a chapel across the street from the Benedictine Abbey, and I noticed words that were above the altar in gold. And I sat there all by myself looking at these words. And I realized that these words meant that I had received some very special gifts because of my grief. And it was shocking to me. I never really noticed it before because I was so busy trying to get beyond the world of grief and be able to be helpful to people. But that defining moment in that chapel across the street from the Benedictine Abbey gave me the idea of writing this new book, and that Treasures in Grief: Discover 7 Spiritual Gifts Hidden in Your Pain.
I absolutely love that. And I know that for some of you, I'm going to put the link here in the chat in a second for this book if you want to get this book, because for me, it's like when somebody's hurting, when they're in grief mode, and you can give them the gift of hope when you don't know what to say, and you want to buy them a card, you want to buy them flowers, then a book is a great, great gift, because it's literally giving somebody the gift of hope, and it's giving them resources from somebody who understands it. So tell us a little bit more about this beautiful book that you've written.
Well, as I meditated on it, I realized these words, these gifts were actually gifts to me, that I had indeed become more courageous, more compassionate. I had a deeper faith because of my grief, which doesn't always happen with people, but it certainly happened to me. And then my feeling of expansion of spiritual awareness was well beyond anything I'd ever known because of my grief. It was so amazing to me. And then, of course, the idea of a mission or a purpose. What would I do with all this information? And fortunately, I met you, and I was back to you, what, 7, 8 years later, saying, Melanie, can you help me put this book together? And so your staff is so wonderful. They have helped me at my age of 82 to write a book that I believe is going to help people who are grieving but don't realize that they're receiving treasures, gifts that are so special, that I hope that that will help them move further down the path of grief.
Well, I absolutely love your book cover. I was going to pull it up here on my Kindle. I can pull it up on my phone so you can see it. This is an example. This is the ebook version of your book. I just love that cover. It's so beautiful. So, I love that you took something that was so tragic and painful in your life, and you've given this blessing to so many people. And what happens sometimes too is that people have many books in them, right? Which is amazing because we've got all these incredible opportunities to share this knowledge, this wisdom, this information. And what's interesting is that we ended up doing also other books with you. We did our Defining Moments, Coping with the Loss of a Child, where we had about 50 different stories of parents who have gone through the loss of a child specifically. And this is about hope and healing. You also shared a story in Angels Among Us, which is another one of our books that came out in December. And so now you have 4 books, Loanne. Isn't that amazing?
Who
And
would think?
and
Who would think?
Treasures in Grief actually hit #1 on the bestseller list. So congratulations. We're so
Really? I
proud for
hadn't,
you.
oh my goodness, it's not even out in book form yet. This is very
Yes,
exciting. And
yes.
that I have to say, that is your staff. They are incredibly comforting and helpful.
Thank you. I'm so glad. I love hearing that. It's like, and I love helping people give birth to their little book babies. I feel like the proud grandma right now because I know the labor that went into this. And unlike having a baby in 9 months, right? My dad used to tell me that, it takes a woman 9 months to have a baby. And no matter how hard they try, 9 women can't have a baby in a month. Well, guess what? We can produce a book in a short amount of time. It doesn't have to take years. And there are some people that spend more time researching their books. And with someone like Loanne, who's written a couple of different books or shared her story and is talking about it, when especially we're talking about grief, right? How did you get past that point of being able to open up and talk about your story? And how has that helped you in your own healing?
Well, definitely writing the book and writing the transpersonal journaling that I was doing really helped me to articulate that. And out of my book, for those of you who are thinking of writing a book, came many, many workshops where people wanted to learn how to do that. And I do believe that the book has a life beyond what you think, just like a baby does. A baby looks beautiful. We're hoping it'll be healthy, but you have no idea that that baby might grow up to be an actress, perhaps, or someone who is very good in finance. You don't see that far into it. So for me, writing the book helped heal me. And then going back to Glastonbury in 2014 and finding a whole new way of looking at the gifts I received in grief. And then the decision to write again, to write another book, but basically for other people to see the gifts before 12 years pass. Do it while you're grieving. Notice how compassionate you are. Notice how courageous you are just to get out of bed in the morning, because grief is very debilitating. So my hope is, as this book moves out into the world, it helps people understand they're not alone and that there's all kinds of gifts and treasures that they haven't discovered yet. And that book will help them find the treasures.
Well, I absolutely adore you and I love what you've done. I know it's going to help a lot of people. And I want to put the information here in the chat for those of you who'd like to get a copy of Loanne's book. And we actually you can, depending on where you're joining us from, wherever you're from, you can get this book anywhere in the world. We have it in multiple countries. So if you can't find it on your Amazon account in another country, you just search for Treasures in Grief book and it will pull up with her name on Amazon in your respective country. And just for fun, I'm going to go ahead and put the links in these other countries on here as well.
While you're doing that, can I just add that I
Yeah.
just had an email from a young lady who took a course from me many years, a Louise Hay course, who lives in South Africa, who told me she had just downloaded my book, and I haven't talked to her, seen her in 15 years.
Oh my gosh, that's
Isn't that
amazing.
wonderful? I was just like, oh, the joy of being on the other end of receiving the work that you are doing and the ability to get these books out is really quite overwhelming.
I love that. And I think that's the thing. Like I remember my first book was also about grief, right? We have that in
Yes,
common.
it was. Yes, it was.
And there were lots of things that I could have written a book about, but that to me was my mission. And it has still become my mission because I know for a fact there are people that are alive and well on this planet today because they've read our books, right? They have had comfort from the words of what we've gone through, and they found um, new purpose that they were able to move through it. And I wouldn't say overcome it because you never really overcome losing
No.
a child. And there's always going to be that empty chair at the table, as I like to say.
Mhm.
But you learn to put it in a different place, and you learn to, like I said, you turn your pain into purpose.
Yeah. And become more courageous in your attempt to move forward. And I think for those of us who really want to help others, the idea of writing about it not only helps others, it helps you. It helps the writer, the author.
Absolutely, absolutely, no doubt in that. So I want to encourage you guys to click on the link below and get a copy of Loanne's book. And one of the things that you can do is if you go to the book on Amazon, I want to show you really quickly here. Let me pull up this link. If I can do this, if I don't screw this up on Zoom, I'm terrible at this stuff, but I want to share something with you real quick. Okay, here's the book on Amazon. This is what it looks like. There's a special price today for only 99 cents. Okay. Now, you can buy it for yourself or buy it for others. So check this out. If you know somebody who's going through grief right now, most gift cards that you go to the store are more than 99 cents, you guys. And this has incredible resources, right? It's absolutely beautiful picture. I mean, beautiful book that is heartfelt and written by somebody that has gone through it. So what I want you to do is you can go here, you click here. If you're in the US, you can do this. You click buy for others right here. It's kind of slow because I'm on Zoom. And then you can hit this one where Amazon, you can order as many copies as you want, and they will send you an email with redemption links that you can send out to different people. Or you can click here and you can put their email address in, and guess what? Amazon will deliver it directly to them. So it'll have their Kindle information. They just have to have an Amazon account to redeem it and open it. And then the most important thing that I would ask that you guys do for Loanne is when you do read the book, would you please go back and leave a review on Amazon? Because now that you've met her and you've seen her heart and her intentions and her love and wanting to help other people, then it would really help her to have reviews as a new author. As this is a new book on Amazon. And as you know, a lot of people look at the reviews as a determination of whether or not they want to buy the book. So when somebody launches a brand new book, there's no reviews yet. So we're still working to get her reviews. So if you would take a second and click on that, just get a copy for yourself. And if you could, please leave an honest review, and also maybe buy a copy for someone else that you know that's really hurting. Now, is there anything else that you want to share with us today, Loanne?
Well, I was just asked, someone just texted me, is the hardcover going to be out soon?
Yes, great question. So what we do is we launch the ebook first, and then the hardcover comes out after that. So we have another excuse for a launch, which is great. It gets more eyes on the prize, as we say. And so our first launch is the ebook, and then the hardcover should be out probably in the next, I would say in the next few weeks, probably in a month, because we want to make sure we format it. We also get feedback on the ebook, and then we reformat and get it ready for print, and then do the print launch as a separate launch. That way, there are some people who want to buy the ebook. Some people want the hardcover. Others want the audiobook. So there's all kinds of formats that people consume books these days. So we definitely will get that ready for you and have that ready to launch probably in the next month.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, as far as I can see, that the books that you are offering are, directed to the needs that each person has. But you have so many that I'm just delighted to be included today, and I thank you for that. And I thank you for having such a wonderful staff that helped me along the way. It was great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll let them know. And Micah, especially, I think is on here today. She's definitely worked with you a lot over the last few months and the last year or so that you've been working on this project.
Yes.
And Karen, I want to say hi to your daughter, Karen. She is awesome. Karen also has written a book with us, and she is just an incredible writer. And I can tell the influence you have on her life of the type of woman that she is. And she's just an amazing human. So I'm so grateful that you both came into our lives and our company and have inspired so many people. And so I want to thank you again, Luann, for being here today, for sharing your heart and soul with your readers, with our audience. And I just can't wait to see what happens with this book. And I'm so, so, so proud of you. And I believe that Cindy would be extremely proud of you and all that you.
Cindy's birthday is only 2 days from now, so I think she already got the message.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I didn't realize. Well, happy angelversary birthday
Thank
to
you.
Cindy.
Thank you, darling.
We'll
Thank you so
definitely
much.
be thinking of you. Well, thank you again for being here. I really appreciate it. Okay, I am going to pull up our next author, Craig. Let's see, let's have Craig come up here. And want to remove the spotlight and add Craig. Okay, here he is. Hello, hey, welcome, welcome. How are you?
Doing well. Hi, Melanie. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So if you can just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, and also if you want to share a defining moment as well. You know, we love talking about defining moments here at our company and on these calls because it's just so neat and inspiring for people to see that you guys have overcome so many things and what inspired you, you know, to create these books and really drove you to finish them and get them out in the world. So love to hear a little bit more about your story and a defining moment as well.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much, Melanie, for this opportunity to launch this book. And Loanne, congratulations. And thank you so much for sharing space with me in our book launches. Your story inspires and creates a world that is filled with more righteousness and good things for people to be inspired by. So thank you so much. And thank you, Melanie, for all the hard work that you do in that giving writers who have a vision an opportunity to share the blessings in their life.
Absolutely.
For me, this book and this moment in and of itself is a defining moment. So writing was a calling that I received at the age of 30 when I had a massive spiritual awakening. And at that moment, I started to think about, started to really reflect about God in my life and just how first above all else, I'm a child of God. And that one of my most profound lessons and teachings was, it was a day that it was a difficult day. And I was in a grocery store and I was kind of like being rushed a little bit and just kind of like a little bit of anxieties and burdens. And the clerk, she was so kind to me and it moved me. And in that moment I had gratitude. And I got back to my car and I called my mom and I said, Mom, you know, I was just having a bad day, full of anxieties, burdens. This woman was so kind to me. Suddenly, you know, I was just grateful for the moment. And my mom said, yeah, Craig, every living creature has a little bit of God in them. And that moment was the defining moment where it made me think about how it is that I'm in relationship with this world, with my neighbor, and with every living thing. And that one particular defining moment caused me to search, well, what does that mean that we have the Spirit of God found in us and within each and every person? And what is the Spirit of God? And in Exodus, it talks about how God has an emotional infrastructure to his spirit, to our mother's spirit. And that caused me to think about who it is that I am and started writing and got the call to start writing. And it caused me to search for my stories and this emotional infrastructure, when you master it, the spirit within, then you find yourself in this blessed state, this consciousness. And this consciousness is the image of God and how we are created to lead, and whatever it is that we're called to lead, whether it's to lead ourselves or a family or a business or a community or a city. And this consciousness is shared by all the greatest leaders throughout human history, whether it's Mother Teresa or King or Gandhi. And this same consciousness is the consciousness that allowed me to lead myself from the dish pits of Kalamazoo, Michigan, washing dishes for 500 students, having them bringing their half-eaten plates of food and slopping them in my window, and being in that current circumstance and believing in myself, leading myself with this consciousness, to moving to New York and ultimately training at a 3 Michelin star restaurant. We were the best restaurant in the nation, Jean George. And at that, I then climbed the ranks to junior sous chef and was leading an international team from all around the world. And in the process, cooked and served Muhammad Ali, US presidents, and ultimately started a multi-million-dollar evaluation of a business that helped lead an entire city's renaissance in the city of Detroit.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it all is from this leading and living in this blessed state, this mastery of our emotional infrastructure, God's spirit, the image of God, and leading in righteousness and justice, in love and justice. And there was a moment where, after achieving all of this, that I lost everything. And my life's work and my purpose and a lifetime devoted to the profession of cooking and training and education, and years of student loans, and sleeping on the ground with mice, and living in over 50 different locations in 20 years, all for the goal of being the best chef in the world, training at the best, starting a business, helping lead a renaissance, creating a model and a structure of upward mobility that empowered a lot of young chefs and professionals who didn't really have much. And when I lost it all, when I had it taken from me, I lived with anger. I lived in a place of resentment. And it was, while reflecting back on the injustices of the world, those cultures and peoples who have lost their life, who have had their lives taken from them, it was this compassionate emotion, one of the emotional infrastructures of our spirit, in which God then whispered, "You know what it feels like to have your life taken from you." And in that moment, my definition of love transitioned from this transactional love of, if you do this for me, then I do this for you, to this shared emotional love. And this shared emotional love was the tipping point in fulfilling the greatest commandments, to love God and to love your neighbor as yourself. Because at that very moment, I fell in love with my neighbor for the first time, to understand them and share that emotional pain, to understand my people. And to feel that level of love and understanding. I had never loved God more than I ever did at that very moment. To take 30 years of my life to teach me about understanding at the highest level brought me such freedom and love that I entered new levels of this blessed state to lead on an entirely different level. And
then you turn that into, so here's what I want you guys to hear from this is, he had this thought, this defining moment, this experience, and was able to take all of that and turn it into a book, right? That is able to bless other people, because it's hard to have that conversation over and over again, I'm sure, with a bunch of people, right? So when you can deconstruct it in such a beautiful way and put it into your own words that are inspired by God, right? And then be able to share that with the whole world. Like, what was that process like for you, Craig?
Yeah, it was amazing because at that moment, in fully in feeling that deep love with God and of my neighbor, I coincidingly was answering God's call to start writing my story. And what that caused me to do was just go harder and go deeper and write more intensely and search more for my style and search more for my voice and search more for lessons from ancestors and from neighbors and from all the amazing, beautiful people from all cultures and all countries of South America and Singapore and Tokyo and living in India and spending time throughout Europe and all the 50 different cities and 20 locations. It caught like feeling that fulfillment of love caused me to search for all of those other experiences on a completely different level. And what happened is that these deep, profound stories and lessons started emerging and emerging and emerging. And what I came to realize is that every moment of my life is a defining moment. And every moment of my life has purpose and has a story. And like, for example, there was, my grandpa lived in a trailer. So I would go and visit my grandpa, and I spent a significant amount of time in a trailer park in suburban Detroit, right on the my grandparents lived on the border of Detroit and Warren, and then this trailer park was in Clinton Township. And my grandpa had a lot of reasons to be mad at the world, having gone through the Great Depression, having been through both world wars, from having been put on a train and brought to a work camp and literally having the options of either death or work and do what they say. He worked for the Union. He drove trucks in the winter and the frigid cold of Detroit. He'd been through riots. He had been through everything in life. And living in this trailer surrounded by poverty, it angered me. It angered me in that things, because on the other side of the road, there were literally mansions, and how there could be so much disparity in this world, so much injustice. But yet my grandpa taught me through a lesson of observation that when I was just a boy, he would enter this contest every year, this flower contest. And basically the gist of it is that whoever had the best flowers would win a prize. So he'd have his flowers completely, fully bloomed, fully presented. And it was beautiful. I mean, every single variety of flower, fully bloomed, array of colors. It was just absolutely stunning. And he would be demanding my dad for his prize. Where is my prize? Where is my prize for this contest? And I remember being in the car with my dad, and my dad is driving out of the chateau, out of the park, and he's laughing. He's laughing. And I'm like, why is he laughing at something that my grandpa finds so serious? And my dad goes, Craig, do you notice anything odd about those flowers? And I say, oh, he goes, it's winter. There's 2 feet of snow on the ground. Everybody else is in their trailer, hiding from the snow, trying to shovel their snow. And your grandpa has a fully bloomed garden ready to win a contest. And my grandpa Ernie then, God rest his soul, would say something like this. And the point of this is this: even if you're in the middle of winter, your mind must always be a fully bloomed garden. Mm-hmm. And there was another time that he would walk around the Myers. That's how he exercised. He would walk around the Myer. It's like a shopping center. And there was this contest to go to a NASCAR race. And essentially, you would enter the form and then put it in the bin. And if they drew your name, then you would win, right? He took all the stacks and literally brought them home to his trailer and stamped his name on every single one of them and brought them back and entered, and he won. And he was able to give my dad and I the tickets to the NASCAR race. And,
Aw.
my dad and I kind of looked at each other like, well, was that kind of wrong? And my grandpa Ernie would say something like this: I didn't break the rules. I just tried harder and smarter. And that's what happens to your mind when you stamp all of your thoughts with positivity. Ultimately, something positive is going to happen. And with that lesson, and with the fact that he used with whatever resources he had to provide tickets for me and my father, then we were able to go to a NASCAR race that otherwise we wouldn't be able to go to. And these are two of hundreds of stories, of parables, of lessons that God has taught me through many different heaven-sent instruments, as far as this is what it means to be in this blessed state, to be able to lead yourself out of a dish pit in Kalamazoo to the opulence of 59th Street and serving Muhammad Ali and US presidents, to then helping lead an entire city's renaissance. This is this blessed state, to have this mind of Christ, the mind of Jesus. And that's really what this book does, is that every single chapter, there's 10 chapters, is one of
And
the...
also here's the actual book. So tell us the name of the book as well. So we can...
The book is called New York Coffee, Love Fulfilled in the Little Things. So that was a teaching.
And by the way, I just have to say, I love your back cover. It is one of the most creative book covers I've ever seen. We have had, thousands of books that I've read in my life, and even through our company and all of our authors, but this is by far the most creative back cover I've ever seen. That is incredible. I want to hear how you came up with that too.
Sure. Well, okay. So a large part of my background in high school, I played very highly competitive basketball, and I also was in a highly competitive arts program. So in photography and computer graphics. So that's something that I've been comfortable with and a passion of mine for quite some time. When I moved to Detroit, I lived on this place called Service Street. And on Service Street was where techno music was created, just down the street from where Motown music was created. And one of my mentors or gurus, a griot, is how he liked to call himself, was the manager for some of the most profound musical artists in our time. And one of them that is Dilla is found in the Smithsonian Museum. And during this time, being surrounded by such great artists, I started to think in a different way and started to learn things from various artists as far as how to create things. And that we're not responsible for creating the things that you want. We're responsible for creating the things that you don't even know you want yet. Mm-hmm. And that we are called on this earth as great artists to share our delights, our decisions with the world, knowing that it's going to evoke a different kind of emotion and feeling and bring you to a different place. So as I'm constantly asking myself how I can make things better, how I can present a true, authentic presentation of myself, I approached the cover and the back cover as canvases for art. And the front cover, I wanted it to be a depiction of my life during that time from 18 to 30, where, a lot of my marketing propaganda I created myself, in that I would use my sketches. So in the background is a sketch of one of my tomato dishes. And also on it, I included an image from Banksy, because hip hop really was the navigation for my life. And if you look at hip hop, one of the components of hip hop is graffiti and street art, and then also rap.
I
And
love
if-
Banksy. I just love his work, and I got to see it all over the world. He did one while we were in Italy once, which was fantastic. And it was like the media was everywhere. We were like right there when it happened. So that was really exciting. And I've seen his work in Israel and all over. So definitely an iconic thing to put on the cover as well. So a
yeah,
lot of
and the thing is that,
that.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, and the thing is like, this book really kind of moves parallel with hip hop in that I went from a dishwasher to helping lead a city's renaissance. And hip hop went from nothing in the basement of the Bronx to being the #1 popular music genre in the world. And also
I love
street
it.
art and graffiti went from a nocturnal criminal lifestyle of you have to paint on subway cars, and if you get caught, you're going to prison, to now being featured in the MoMA Museum and being worth, hundreds of millions of dollars. So that is
I
quite a
love the
trajectory,
metaphors of all
right?
of that with the book.
So
And that is so meaningful as well. And it's true because all these things that, may look, they might on the surface, they might look as one thing and then they become something greater. What is the significance of the date next to your name on the cover? I'm curious
oh
about
yeah, so I
3/28, 2073. Is that a date, I'm assuming?
well, okay, it's a date that I just randomly picked, but the thing is that so I grew up in Detroit. I was born in Detroit, and one of the central figures in my creative inspiration was Marvin Gaye.
Mm.
And one of my neighbors, he, I would always that he ran a coffee shop, and he always had the best music selections and stuff that I barely rarely ever hear. And one day I was just kind of like, I had like palette fatigue of the music I was listening to. And I asked him, I said, so you got any suggestions for music? And he was like, yeah, Hear My Dear by Marvin Gaye. So Hear My Dear by Marvin Gaye is one of the greatest albums of all time. And in that album was a certain mindset in one of the songs. Basically, it's like he's taking the listener to Plutarium, and he's talking about the future and talking about like in like 2083, 2000,
Oh, I love that.
and that kind of mindset to be creating things for people 50 years from now is a source of inspiration. So that was like a big source of my inspiration was music, and is music, and not just rap music, but also the samples from the classics that they would use in their beats. And so that's why I put my name, and then that date is inspired by that Marvin Gaye. Let me find the name of the song. It's an amazing song.
That's awesome. Well,
And
and you guys, by the way, if you have questions for Craig or Luann, you can put them in the chat as well. This is interactive because we love being able to share these incredible authors. And I hope that you're enjoying. Are you guys liking this? Like, this is something we've never done before. We've never done a book launch in the middle of our summit, but I was compelled to try this and think this would be a fun experiment for all of you to be able to see their journey, hear what inspired them, what kept them, like the purpose behind it kept them focused when everything else went wrong, when all these things were coming at them in life, and they could have just quit. And the truth is, the only way to fail is to not start or to quit. And, this is why like 80% of people out there say they want to write a book and only 1% of people actually do, because they quit or they get in their head, and then their fear or their doubts will stop them. And can you imagine not having these 2 books in the world, right? Because right now you guys don't even know the impact you're making yet. And Luann, you kind of get it because you've written other books and you've seen and talked to people that have been transformed or inspired by what you've written, these things that you brought to fruition. And, Craig, you've got this incredible, all these downloads, that you're putting out there, and it's like so inspiring. And it's like, it's fun to get you out there, because there's so many people that have never heard of you, that don't know anything about you, that I think are just going to be blown away by just the way you look at the world. And to share that gift with other people is such a blessing for us as well. So thank you so much.
oh, thank you. That's very kind. Yeah, and the back cover is kind of like so it's kind of like pop art
Mhm.
in that it's a Yelp, it's a play on a Yelp restaurant review, because the fact is that, I had a goal when I was, 18, when I was 21, when I packed up my car and moved to New York with nothing, in that I was going to be the best chef in the world. Ultimately, it came to fruition that I would be the best spiritual chef in the world, but that I would open a restaurant, and that wasn't able to, a brick and mortar wasn't able to come to life. But I'm a man of my word, and for me, giving up is way harder than trying. So that
I
for me,
love that.
this is
Wait
my
a minute.
restaurant.
Giving up is way harder than trying. I love
Yeah,
that.
so this is my restaurant. So I opened up my restaurant. I achieved my goal, because this was the name of the restaurant was Guns and Butter, which is an economic term to kind of bring awareness in my generation. So in my generation, we've been at war our entire life, except for the last couple of years, especially post 9/11. I graduated high school 2002. And the relevancy of what we're spending our money on, whether it's military or domestic goods, which is the entire economic process, the entire economic concept of Guns and Butter, was what I hoped diners to think about in as they would eat dishes. And also, it kind of created tension, in that this was kind of like a brawny, almost barbaric name, but yet they would sit down and eat Michelin star food that, was created by the protege of Jean-Georges, which involved, ethereal broths of light and finessed food. So the kind of that juxtaposition was something that created emotion. And ultimately what I did in the when the cover was that, we need more love in this world. So I ended up, so I achieved my goal of opening up that restaurant, but then I shut it down and then opened up a new one called Love and Butter, because we need more love, and maybe we get some butter in this world from our love. So
That's awesome. I love, and who doesn't love butter? I mean, really. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us, and tell us a little bit, like, who is this book for specifically? Who did you write this book for? And what is the message you have for them, for the people that may be thinking about getting your book and questioning if it's for them?
yeah, so my book is for my 18-year-old advocate self. So my personality type is an advocate. So I am part of less than 1% of the world's population. And that's what I wrote. That's who I wrote this book for, because there are a lot of really silent challenges and enemies that our youth is currently facing. Highest drug overdoses that our country has ever seen. Over 100,000 of our prophets have died, being known as the fentanyl generation.
Yeah.
Student loans, people are graduating college with a mortgage called student loans instead of a mortgage payment, and that's a pretty poor deal for all. There is the truth that currently there's a loophole in our prison system where we have legalized slavery, allowing those who have been incarcerated, whether it's personal wrongdoing or the injustice of generational trauma, to force them to stamp license plates instead of entering programs like Defy, which empower their natural God-given talents and lower the recidivism rate from 70 to less than 10%. All of these things are doing love and justice, are doing it from a place of blessed state, of living each and every waking moment from a place of leadership, from a place of loving kindness and compassion, and a mastering of all of God's infrastructure emotions. And in doing this, you live a blessed state. Well, we need more impactful young leaders to speak up and be the change that they hope in the world. There has been a consistent problem in that our voices don't mean anything anymore. I mean, in the 60s, in the civil rights movement, people marched and people stood for those things that are unjust, and thank God, because we have become a better society from it. But there was results that came about from great leaders and people coming together and standing up against the injustices. There was results. There was the Civil Rights Act. There was the Voting Act. There was women's rights. There was results that were coming about it because voices mattered. When they stood up to injustices. There has been injustices that have been happening recently. There have been marches on Washington. There has been marches for gender equality. There's been marches for standing against gun violence and the safety of our schools and our youth marching together for their own safety. And there's been marching for George Floyd, the George Floyd Policing Act, and March on Washington. And our government has not responded.
That's true.
We have not had any results as far as policies being created. We have not had the George Floyd Police Reform Act hasn't been passed. Like
I love how you approach things not from a political viewpoint, but from a solution viewpoint. And I think we need more thought leaders in the world like you. I think we need more men in the world like you who aren't afraid to stand up for what you believe in and take that stand and speak out. And so I'm just so happy that you have this platform, because your book is going to be that catalyst that's going to help other people have that dialogue and conversation. Right. And I think it's so courageous for all of you that are, getting your books out in the world. Like it can, your fear, your doubts can easily stop you. Right. So what advice would you have, Craig, for somebody else who is thinking about writing a book, or is maybe afraid of what would happen if they get their voice out there, or worried about how they might be judged for the way they write or their thoughts? Like any last thoughts on that before we wrap up our launch today?
I say that because, ultimately, when we do God's will of heaven on earth, right, being back in the garden and living a life of love and justice, then things like negotiations between Republican and Democratic senators on a reform bill that collapsed in 2021, that we would find a solution of togetherness and unity. Because when we are together and we are unified and we are working as a team, all parts of the body working together, all complementary strengths, then we are doing and we are maintaining our overarching collective call in this world, and that is bringing a world that is filled with love and restorative justice, a fulfillment of love of God and love of neighbor as yourself. And that when you do that individually, when you do that collectively, then we live in a world in a beautiful state. And that is the whole entire point of why we were created. And if we don't maintain this calling, whatever it is, whether it's individually or collectively, then we will just go into the opposite direction. And the opposite direction is literally, it is evil. And love will always conquer, and God is love. And that is who we are. That is our true self. That is our beautiful self, and how it is that we were created. And there's nothing greater. There's a Bible verse, and there's so many different Bible verses that get hidden because we fixate and focus on some Bible verses that cause division and dissension. But there's a Bible verse that goes something like this, where it says, there's nothing greater than for you to be joyful in every waking moment. This is my gift to mankind, to humankind. And this is God saying this. Well, we must be joyful in that we must live in a blessed state. and we must lead from a place of love. And this is how we are created to be. And that there's going to be challenges, there's going to be difficulties, but ultimately love will always conquer. And it's better to find the rhythm of the universe that was formed billions and billions of years ago, as opposed to trying to define it as ourselves. So.
Thank you so much, Craig. I appreciate you being here today. And by the way, you can get the ebook or the hard copy of Craig's book, New York Coffee, Love Fulfilled in the Little Things, Craig Leickfelt. So pick that up today. We have special pricing just for the launch today. So make sure you guys get a copy. So I believe the hard copy is what, $9.95? And the ebook, I don't remember the ebook price. I have to look that up on Amazon. Let me just see real quick. And you can, this is what it looks like on the website on Amazon. If you go to Amazon, you can click on the link here below, or you can go directly to Amazon and see it here. So the
I also have a I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I also have a website, craigleickfelt.net, and on the website, there's a link to the book. And then I'm in the midst of finalizing a course, and there'll be a link to a course. And then I will also be hosting a once a week small cohort of about 20 students for 8 weeks, in which I'll be leading a more in-depth course derived from this book, because each chapter has a formulaic recipe of how it is that you arrive at this blessed state.
I love that. I was going to ask you, because there are people that are probably watching wondering how they could follow you or work with you. So that's great to know. So
it's .net.
Oh, .net. Okay.
Yep, sorry about that.
That's okay. Let me. Shannon said, I bought his book. Delete that message. Okay, I'm going to put that in here. .net. Okay, there we go.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I want to put that in the Facebook group as well for all of our Facebook friends that are here. Okay. And thank you so much. I really appreciate you and your journey, and just, you have so many fascinating stories. Of course, you should have a book, because there's so many stories that I think a lot of people will feel your heart and soul behind all of this. And thank you again, Craig and Luann, for being here today. We're so appreciative that you shared your launch with us. Congratulations on your book. I'm so excited for both of you, and can't wait to hear the results of your launch and see all the people that are supporting you, encouraging you. And please make sure to go back and leave an honest review on each of their books. If you are getting a copy for yourself or for someone else, I know they will both greatly appreciate that. Craig, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up today, the launch today?
I just want to say thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for Defining Moments and the entire team, and also Luann and sharing this space and our book launch together. We started in Zoom calls many months ago, so it's pretty awesome to be in this book launch with you. And Melanie, thank you for believing in me. Thank you for seeing the potential in me, and that, you know, when I told people I was going to start writing my story, I got a lot of feedback like, what are you, crazy? And I'll tell you what, you have been supportive, and I'm so very thankful for you, and thankful for this community. So God bless you.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Thank you. God bless you too, both of you, and our team. Like, I mean, I'm the one out here, the mouthpiece, you know, that never stops running. I'm like the Energizer Bunny with my mouth, my communication, my writing, because I love connecting with people in such a way. And our team does so much. So I just want to say a quick shout out to them as well. And by the way, if you are out there watching this and you want to write a book and you want to learn more about this process of how these guys did it, you can go to our website at mydefiningmoments.com. And I would love to have a chat with you about it and find out a little bit more about what your ideas are and things to think about. What do you want your book to do for you? And what do you want it to do for your audience? Right? Who is the book for? And when you have clarity on that message, there's all kinds of tools and resources we have that are deep dives on that. Once you have that clarity, then it literally will kind of flow out of you, right? When you know who it's for, then it's like you can't help but write this love letter to this reader that you have in your mind, and know that it's coming from such a pure, intentional place. So that's the thing I love the most about our company and what we do, is just being able to bring these ideas and thoughts into fruition and find a home for them, a platform, and really incubate these little book babies until they're ready to come out into the world like these two today. So again, Luann, Craig, thank you so much for being here today. Appreciate you guys. And we're gonna stop our Facebook Live right now because this is for the launch. But if you want to continue with the summit, we're going to be here the next 3 days. I'm going to put a link in the chat of Facebook. You can join the summit. It's not too late to join. And we're about to dive deep into how to do all of these things and put these pieces together, plus how to get booked on stages, be featured in the media, get booked on podcasts, and all the fun ways that you can get your book and your brand, your company, your expertise out into the world and really find a way to monetize that knowledge that you have that only you can give. All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here for the launch. I appreciate you, and we'll see you all very soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.